President Sirisena arrives in New York to attend the United Nations General Assembly. Irregularities lead to building collapse in Ahangama, 7 injured. Labour Minister holds discussions with CEB trade unions. Election monitors allege irregularities in attempt to amend Election Act. Minister Lakshman Yapa says there are only 2 choices before the people in the event of a referendum.
Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Dasnia Fabra.
පසුගිය කාලේ රජපෞලේ පුත්‍රේ අහසට ඇරියා සුප්‍රීම් සැට් කියලා චන්ද්‍රිකාවක් ඇරියයි කියලා කිව්වා. ඒකට සල්ලි ගත්තේ ලංකාව විදිහට බලන්න. රුපියල් මිලියන 460ක්.
Startling revelations from Minister Partili Champika Ranawalkar on the misuse of CEB funds for the Supreme Sat project. More details coming up on tonight's bulletin.
Let's now take a look at our top story tonight, President Maithripala Sirisena's official visit to the USA. Security has been tightened across New York City as leaders from around the world gathered for the 72nd session of the United Nations General Assembly. President Maithripala Sirisena will be addressing the United Nations General Assembly tomorrow. Newsfirst Jayewardene reports from New York, USA.
President Maithripala Sirisena arrived in New York today, flanked by First Lady Jayewardene Sirisena. President Maithripala Sirisena was greeted by Foreign Secretary Prasad Karyavasam and members of the Sri Lanka's permanent mission to the United Nations in New York. The United Nations, an intergovernmental organization tasked to promote international cooperation and to create and maintain international order, was established on 24th October 1945 after World War II in order to prevent another such conflict. The General Assembly, which is part of the 5 main functions of the United Nations, meets under its President or Secretary General in annual sessions in order to address the issues faced by the world and respective countries. The first session was convened on the 10th of January 1946 in the Methodist Central Hall in London and included representatives of 51 nations, which now accounts to 193 nations. The General Assembly is taking place against a backdrop of droughts, floods and hurricanes, including 2 that have ravaged parts of Texas, Florida and the Caribbean in the past few weeks, making climate change one of the most important topics. North Korean missile crisis, dire humanitarian situation in Myanmar and Iran nuclear crisis will top the agenda at tomorrow's General Assembly, which will convene under its new Secretary General, Antonio Guterres.
President Maithripala Sirisena, who arrived in New York yesterday, attended the UN Political Reform High-Level event at the Economic and Social Council this morning. President Maithripala Sirisena will be attending the 72nd session of the United Nations General Assembly tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. New York time. Now, this is going to be a very decisive meeting for many heads of states, including President Donald J. Trump, who took over office in the year 2017. Now, all eyes will also be on Sri Lanka, as Sri Lanka is once again in the spotlight for human rights violations in Geneva as well as back in Sri Lanka. This is going to be a very decisive meeting for President Maithripala Sirisena, and all eyes will be on President Maithripala Sirisena's address, which will happen later on Tuesday. I am Shamir Rasuldin reporting for News First from the UN headquarters in New York, USA.
Thank you, Shamir, for that report. In the meantime, 7 people were injured after a 5-storied building under construction collapsed in the Alawatukissa area in Tittagala, Ahangama. The building collapsed at around 10 a.m. 5 people who sustained injuries were admitted to the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital. An operation was launched by the Police Special Task Force, the Sri Lanka Army, firemen and area residents to rescue an individual who was trapped under the rubble. An individual who was trapped under the rubble for almost 3 hours was rescued and admitted to the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital. Technical officers of the Pradeshia Sabha in Habaradu arrived in the area this afternoon. Preliminary investigations conducted by the officers revealed that the building, which was allowed to construct only 3 stories, was extended till 5 stories illegally. The 5th floor of the building was constructed on Friday, and the contractor of the construction was also injured in the incident. 4 people were injured when a building owned by a hotel adjacent to the Periyamulla Bridge in Negombo collapsed on the 17th of August. 7 labourers had been working at the time of the collapse, and 6 of them were working on the 3rd floor while the other was on the ground floor. 3 people died when a 5-storey building in Velavatta collapsed on the 18th of May. The police has commenced investigations with regard to the incident to ascertain if the accident occurred due to negligence. How can we prevent such incidents from taking place? Speaking to Newsfirst, civil engineer Jayewardene expressed his views. Superior engineers should be consulted when constructing a building. The Sri Lanka Engineers Association has categorized the engineers based on the types of buildings. We have made directories of structural engineers for different categories such as 4-storey buildings, 4 to 12-storey buildings and buildings with more than 12 stories. Buildings collapse when inexperienced engineers do the construction. We heard about another building that collapsed in Colombo. Strict laws should be imposed on this or the situation may repeat. We see illegal constructions in many areas in the country.
A meeting was held today between the Minister of Labour, Trade Union Relations and Subragama Development, WDJ Senviratna, and representatives of CEB trade unions with regard to the strike action launched by them. The discussion was held at the Ministry of Labour.
Today is the 6th day of the strike action launched by trade unions attached to the Ceylon Electricity Board, citing several demands including salary anomalies. The employees are demanding that the salary of electrical engineers, which was increased in 2014, considering them as a special team to be removed, or that their salaries be increased in comparison to the salary increment.
We held lengthy discussions. We concluded with the intention of including the Engineers Association at the next round of talks. We have not received an acceptable solution as yet. We will continue this. We intend holding further discussions. The Engineers Association and the CEB Superintendent Union will convene at 6 p.m.
Media spokesperson to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy, Sulakshara Jayewardene, said that the generation of power has not been disrupted as a result of the strike action. However, power failures have been reported in the areas of Bibila, Madagama, Ampara, Uhana and Kumarigama.
It is okay if they are doing this to get increments, but let them handle this with the relevant officials. The innocent are suffering. Give us power back.
They get their salaries. It is the general public who suffer. They have power in their houses, but we don't.
They should not sacrifice us for their needs. This is a violation of human rights.
Technical engineers and superintendents are also scheduled to join the strike action starting from midnight. We have already announced that we will launch a 48-hour-long token strike. If we do not get a solution, we might launch a continuous strike action. 1,500 out of 1,700 employees of the same ranking represent this organization. Senior engineering assistants and electromechanical employees represent this organization.
As mentioned at the start of the bulletin, during a recently held meeting of the Welfare Society of the CEB retirees, Minister Partali Champika Ranawaka made some startling revelations on the financial irregularities in the CEB.
The EPF and ETF scam, the Entrust scam. When you look into these scams, they are not small figures. These scams are worth 12 billion. This is an amazing country. A little girl was sent to remand prison for a month for stealing 8 coconuts. A school principal was sent to prison for 8 years because she accepted a bribe of 25,000 rupees. However, what happens when you steal 12 billion? The individual who stole 2.5 billion rupees from the EPF of 18,000 CEB employees was released in 2 days. If the people don't feel that justice is done through the law, they will lose faith in it. Courts being independent is not enough. They should be efficient and impartial. Everyone should be able to clearly see that justice is being meted out. The people who stole from the EPF of the CEB are free today. They have bought horses worth millions. They have purchased helicopters. Justice has not been done. I'm saddened about the legal process in the country. What is the message that it gives? It says that if you are going to be corrupt, don't take small amounts of 25,000 or 50,000. You have to deal with millions and billions. What happened to the bond scam that shook the entire nation? The chief suspect, who should have been brought to the coalface and tried, has been allowed to stay silent without giving a statement. The 9% interest rates rose to 14% because of the bond scam. In addition to the money they stole, they are causing an annual loss to the government of 95 billion rupees. The impact on the economy is worth trillions. However, these individuals walk away from all this because of the legal points brought out by lawyers who rake in millions. They say that back then, a son of the royal family spent millions to send a satellite named SupremeSat into orbit. They took money from the CEB for this purpose, a total of 460 million. I lodged a complaint and the case is being heard. I have no idea when justice will be meted out. They did this scam under the guise of importing coal. We were able to arrest some of the people involved in the scam, but since they had stolen a lot, they were released in a few days.
CEB employees on strike citing various demands, and on the other hand, we have revelations of large-scale misappropriation of CEB funds. A major energy crisis is drawing closer if the CEB is unable to meet the energy demand come 2020. Now, serious questions are being posed regarding the tender process for a 300-megawatt power plant in Kerawalapitia.
It has been proposed that the 300-megawatt power plant to be built in Kerawalapitia will initially be fueled by diesel before switching to liquefied natural gas or LNG in a few years. While an international tender process was initiated calling for bids for the construction of this power plant, 8 bids were submitted. 2 companies were disqualified following recommendations based on the assessment of the Technical Evaluation Committee or TEC, and 6 companies were shortlisted for this tender. Among those 6, the TEC determined that 5 companies had not met the requirement of being able to convert the power plant into an LNG power plant. Samsung, based in Korea, was the only company that met the minimum requirement. However, their bid was rejected too on a technical basis that information had been compiled on a compact disc when submitting the bid. It was eventually proposed to open the tenders of the other 5 companies. This move was opposed by the Standing Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee, or the SCAPC, and was followed by the resignations of the committee's chairman and several members. Submitting a cabinet note bearing his signature, the Prime Minister noted that the Cabinet Committee on Economic Management had concluded that the tender submitted by the 5 companies should be considered. However, according to the report of the TEC, all 5 companies failed to provide plans for the proposed LNG conversion and had only submitted plans for a diesel power plant. While the third phase of the assessment was carried out today, according to sources, the TEC had decided for the proposal submitted by Lakdanavi Limited was the most advantageous. Incidentally, the majority shareholders of Lakdanavi Limited is Lanka Transformers or LTL Holdings, of which the CEB owns a controlling 63% stake. One would therefore not be wrong in explorating from the information at hand that Lakdanavi is essentially a subsidiary of the CEB. The other bidders in this tender process argue that while an international tender process was initiated for this project, it is illegal for a subsidiary of the CEB to submit a bid. Information has also come to light regarding 3 board members of LTL Holdings and Lakdanavi Limited. They are UD Jayewardene, MJMN Marikar and Ravindra Kumar Pitigala. What is their role in these 2 companies and what motives are they hoping to accomplish? Who benefits as a result of undermining a fair tender process to select a company for this project? Newsfirst encourages whistleblowers and the aggrieved parties to come forward to prevent a possible act of corruption. We will remain vigilant on this issue.
Cafe claims that the government is preparing to bring in changes to the provincial council election process through the back door.
The government's behavior gives us a clear message that the Supreme Court has given a ruling which implies that this is in contravention to the constitution of the country. Their attempts at delaying elections has led them to a crisis. When this is happening, they are attempting to bring in these changes to the election system through a back door. They said that they will bring in a first-past-the-post system for the provincial councils. However, no one has seen the legislation in this regard. Not more than 10 members of parliament have seen this legislation. The government is attempting to engage in an unconstitutional act. An amendment has been gazetted in order to ensure that 30% of the nominees for the election are female. The act will be taken up for debate on Wednesday. This deals with the preferential voting system. However, during the committee stage debates, they are trying to create a backdrop where they will be able to change the election process for the provincial councils. This is unconstitutional.
Former chairperson of the National Committee on Women, Dr. Neela Gunasekara, says that the steps taken by the government to increase female representation in provincial councils and local government bodies is a step taken to ensure democracy in the country.
30% female representation is a matter of national importance. This will strengthen the economic process of the country and create a situation to resolve the issues and challenges faced by women. Women should make these decisions. This 30% representation shouldn't only apply to provincial councils, it should apply to Parliament as well. This will get a great deal of work done for the people of Sri Lanka.
State Minister of Public Enterprise Development Lakshmani Jayewardene expressed these views during an event in Kamrupitia.
To change the election process of provincial councils, Parliament and Pradesh Sabhas into an electorate-based system has not changed. If the court declares that a public referendum is necessary, we will hold discussions and we will decide what to do next. People in this country expect us to abolish the preferential voting system. I do not think anyone in this country likes this system. There may be some politicians who prefer this, because this voting system does not allow the public to reach a representative directly. There are two questions to ask if we go for a public mandate. One is if they like the preferential voting system. They will say no.
Chief Executive Officer of Perpetual Treasuries claims that they did not cause a loss to the government. Zulfik Farzan reports on Bondgate.
The re-examination of Kasun Palisena, the CEO of PTL, continued today. He stated PTL will always seek funds from any market player, including the Employees Provident Fund. It came to light that PTL entered into switch transactions through GFCC Bank to enter into transactions with the EPF, HSBC, NSB, Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation and Citibank. The Attorney General's Department said it challenges the documents produced by PTL and questions if PTL transactions are entered in the Lanka secure system. Kasun Palisena, the CEO of PTL, disagreed when the Deputy Solicitor General suggested that PTL documents cannot be cross-checked with the Lanka secure system. He pointed out the capital gains produced in documentation were not of PTL but of their clients, including W.M. Mendes and Company Limited. However, the Attorney General's Department said they were bogus transactions.
Former Governor of the Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran is expected to appear before the Commission to give evidence for the first time tomorrow. Summons was served last week on Mahendran to appear before the Commission tomorrow.
In other local news, waste compacting and baling machines were distributed to local government bodies under the Western Province's Waste Management Program.
19 waste compacting and baling machines worth 10 million rupees were distributed today to mark 2-year anniversary of Western Province Chief Minister Isradeva Priya assuming office.
We made it clear that passing the 20th Amendment to the Constitution will create more issues. The Northern Provincial Council wants to abolish the powers vested in the governor, but that cannot be done. This is not a federal state and the people are not calling for a federal state. That is why we said the 20th Amendment violates the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Then all provincial council powers will be vested in Parliament. 3 provincial councils will be dissolved next year, another 3 in 2019. Passing this amendment will not cause any justice to the councils that will be dissolved in 2019. The President aspires that the local government elections and the parliamentary elections must take place according to the electoral system. That is what the people want.
The 111th birth anniversary of late President Jayewardene was marked today.
A religious event to mark the occasion took place this evening at the Jayewardene Centre in Colombo. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was among those present. Junius Richard Jayewardene, commonly abbreviated in Sri Lanka as JR, was born on the 17th of September 1906 in Colombo as the eldest to a family of 11. He received his education at Royal College Colombo and was a member in both the school's cricket team and the brass band. A practicing attorney, J.R. Jayewardene entered politics when he joined the Ceylon National Congress as an activist in 1938. After Sri Lanka gained its independence from Britain, he was appointed as the finance minister in the government formed in 1948. J.R. became the leader of the United National Party after Dudley Senanayaka's death in 1973. He made a resounding win at the 1977 elections and became the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. He amended the constitution to give the country an executive presidency, and in 1978 he became the executive president. The open economy concept was introduced to Sri Lanka by J.R. Jayewardene. He also initiated the Mahavali development program along with several other development drives to boost the country's economic growth. It was during the JR era that many large hydropower plants, including the construction of the Kotmale, Victoria, Rantambe, Ramdenigala dams, commenced along with the development of the Minipe Anicut irrigation program. He secured agreements internationally and obtained long-term concessionary loans for these projects. It was during the J.R. Jayewardene era that the Provincial Council laws and the Indo-Lanka Agreement was inked. J.R. Jayewardene, an active politician until 1988, died on the 1st of November 1996 at the age of 90 in Colombo. The Minister of Health has given instructions to transfer Dr. Nirmali Thenwara, the acting Chief Medical Officer at the Walikada Prison Hospital. The Minister had instructed the Director General of Health Services, Dr. Jayasundara Bandara, on this matter following a request made by 19 doctors at the prison's hospital. A medical team from the Walikada Prison Hospital visiting the Health Minister today handed over a report on 26 matters on the irregular conduct of Dr. Nirmali Thenwara. They request the Criminal Investigations Department to investigate the matter. Following the transfer of Dr. Thenwara, the Ministry of Health appointed Dr. J. K. Malwattage to the post of Acting Chief Medical Officer at the Walikada Prison Hospital. Dr. Nirmali Thenwara is alleged to be involved in some prisoners moved to the Walikada prison being shifted to the prison hospital in an irregular manner and providing them with benefits.
An event organised by the Sri Lanka Prisoners Welfare Association and the Prisons Department to mark the Prisoners' Day under the theme Prisoners 2017 was held at the Padanama Institute today.
New move is to move the Walikada prisons out of Walikada and to house it. We have got a space in Bandaragama and all preliminary surveys and plans have been drawn, and very soon we will be moving our prisons, and the 28 acres in Walikada will be given to the UDA for development. I had given instructions to the Commissioner General of Prisons that the prisoners must at least have a mattress to sleep on. Today the prisoners don't have any mattress to sleep, they just sleep on the floor. So I have given instruction, I just asked the Commissioner General of Prisons. Of course I had given this instruction some time ago, yet they say the tenders are not yet open. The tenders have to be opened very soon. I mean, we are taking a long time. So I said, now he said by about another 1 month's time, I hope that will be done, please.
In your presence I appeal to His Excellency, the President Maithripala Sirisena and the Honourable Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe to do something through the Cabinet to speed up listening to the cases in the judiciary. Is dragging on and on and on because of some problem of administration, the Department of Justice, that makes people to stay on in the prison even without being condemned or being convicted. For me, is a violation of their fundamental rights.
Chairperson of the Sri Lanka Prisons Welfare Association, Milinda Morogoda, Prisons Commissioner General Tusharu Pultheniya, former Minister Sirisena Kure, Itta Kande Dhammananda Thera and several other religious leaders were also present at the event.
In a case that is a first of its kind to be brought by the US, a former high-ranking HSBC executive from Britain is the first person to go on trial on charges stemming from a US probe into foreign exchange rate manipulation.
Selection of jury members for the trial of Mark Johnson, a 51-year-old British citizen, began today in Brooklyn, New York. Johnson was HSBC's global head of foreign exchange cash trading. He has pledged not guilty to wire fraud and conspiracy charges. HSBC spokesperson Robert Sherman said Johnson left the bank earlier this year and the case will be against Mark Johnson, not HSBC. The case came in the wake of worldwide investigations that have resulted in about $10 billion in fines for several large banks and the firing of dozens of traders. In 2011, Johnson and another HSBC executive, Stuart Scott, misused information from a client that hired the bank to convert $3.5 billion into British pounds as part of the client's planned sale of foreign subsidiaries. According to prosecutors, Johnson and Scott entered into foreign currency transactions armed with this knowledge that caused the price of pounds to spike, generating more profit for HSBC while hurting the client. Transactions that are based on advanced knowledge of a deal are known as front-running. The client was not named in court papers, but a source said it was British oil firm Cairn Energy PLC. HSBC earned $3 million in total from Johnson and Scott's foreign currency transactions and $5 million from executing the deal for the client, according to the prosecutors.
Sri Lankan paceman Lasith Malinga made a revelation on the preparation of cricket grounds during a meeting held recently under the auspices of Minister of Sports Dayasiri Jayasekara.
During the last couple of tours, we go to the grounds and say we need this amount of grass. When we step away, they start cutting the grass and say they made a mistake with the blade. If there is someone who is capable of preparing an international level wicket and he commits a mistake regarding the blade, then I don't think he is worthy of preparing such a wicket. I speak about this when I can. It has happened twice. We are not going to say we lost just because of this. When incidents of this nature occur, it causes a collapse in cricket. The players suffer mentally. They hope that they will get what they wanted, but when we reach the ground, it's not there. We have to face such a situation when playing. Lasith Malinga's revelation was based on an experience at the Suryawava ground in Hambantota. Anura Veerasinghe acts as the operation officer of the Hambantota Stadium. The national curator of Sri Lanka cricket is Godfrey Dabere. Day 2 of the 5th Asian Indoor Games gave a glimmer of hope for the Sri Lankan athletes as Indunil Herath and Gayanthika Aberatne breezed through their qualifying rounds today. Stephanie Lazarus filed this report from Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, where the 5th Asian Games are currently taking place.
12 days of the Games, 347 medals up for grabs and 4,500 athletes from across Asia go head-to-head in one of the most sought-after competitions in Asia. Indunil Herath of Sri Lanka clocked a time of 1 minute and 53 seconds, winning him a spot at the finals of the 800-meter men's track event. Clocking in a time of 2 minutes and 12 seconds, Gayanthi Aberatne too earned herself a spot at the final games of tomorrow's final event. As per the other Indo Games are concerned, Sri Lanka's Renana Tikiribandarage unfortunately was defeated at the hands of a Turkmenistan opponent at the 54-kilogram weight men's taekwondo event. Reporting for the News First team, this is Stephanie Lazarus from Ashgabat, Turkmenistan.
Our main stories on the bulletin tonight highlight serious issues in infrastructure development and public procurement procedures, a comprehensive discussion on the controversy surrounding the Central Expressway and other infrastructure projects coming up right after the news on Face the Nation.
And on the subject of corruption and misappropriation of public funds, we leave you tonight with an excerpt of the statement made by Minister Patali Champika Ranavaka. For the News First team, I'm Dasnia Thalva.
And I'm Shen Silva. Take care and good night.
What happened to the bond scam that shook the entire nation? The chief suspect, who should have been brought to the coalface and tried, has been allowed to stay silent without giving a statement. The 9% interest rates rose to 14% because of the bond scam. In addition to the money they stole, they are causing an annual loss to the government of 95 billion rupees. The impact on the economy is worth trillions. However, these individuals walk away from all this because of the legal points brought out by lawyers who rake in millions.